stockholder and officer.
And director?
Yes,
You didn't have a corporation, you had an alter ego.
that's correct. It's a fiction in the law. But there are assets there. How do I?
They'll come right through that in a heartbeat and
Okay,
go right
so-
directly to you.
so
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so that's a non-issue.
Yeah,
Okay.
you better get that straightened out right away. You got an alter ego. I got the same problem. You understand?
It may help to know that the UCC3 simply modifies the UCC1. That is the foundational instrument, as Sam was pointing out. And the UCC3 is nothing unto itself except an adjustment, alteration, modification of the UCC1.
That's right.
Also, the purpose of the UCC1 is to establish a security interest in the property or the collateral of a debtor. Two ways to do that. One, the secured party can take possession of the debtor's collateral, or two, he can file a security agreement. And that is the easiest way to perfect the security interest. That's the purpose of the security agreement, to perfect the secured party's security interest in the property or collateral of the debtor.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
I have a question I'd like to address to you, sir. On the birth certificate issue, I'm confused about that. I have from the state of Washington, I'm a little bit older than some of you folks who are in here. I can remember World War II real well, so that ought to help you. When I was born back in 1934, and my wife the same way, we were issued two different things. My mother got these. First, there was a birth certificate which was held in the state of Washington, okay? Up until about 1970 or something. The only way what you got was a photostat copy if you asked for the birth certificate. In order for us to get married, I had to, because I was underage, I had to get permission to get this birth certificate. My dad sent it to me. I still have it. And the other piece of paper I have now is from the Department of Commerce, and it's a registration. It was registered in Washington, D.C. in 1934. It's a blue piece of paper. What is the difference between the certificate that's here and the one that's in Washington, D.C. with the Department of Commerce?
Well, there's just one at the state level and one at the national level, and they both got money on them.
They're two different separate issues.
Yeah, I've seen 4 separate ones for one person. And if you go to Department of Vital Statistics today, you can get another one for you. They'll issue you as many as you want. They're $10 a piece in most places.
Well, okay, when I went down to the Olympia here, this Capitol, they said they don't have those photostat copies no more.
That's right.
They call it now a birth registration.
Yes.
It's $13 if you want one. I thought, well, why do I need one if I've already got the certificate?
Yeah, well, you'll find some very interesting things on it. It'll be on banknote paper, for one.
What does that mean, sir?
Well, it'll say right on the bottom of it. The banknote paper is a certificate paper that they put stocks and bonds on. It's literally banknote paper.
Okay.
It says right down in the bottom of the corner, if you look at a new one, it'll say either American Banknote Company, Midwest Banknote Company, or some other banknote company. Okay? That's an official bank document that they can trade. You remember the scripture says in Revelation that they trade in the souls of men. Here you are.
Now that cleared it up. So it would behoove me to go down and get the other piece of paper too with the banknote.
If you feel like it, you can. I did.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Sam, I filed my UCC1 before I knew about the UCC11. So when I filed that, my UCC1 was the only document that showed up. If I go to court, will that be adequate evidence?
Yes, that's a good question, because I did the same thing. I eliminated first step, okay? I went directly to the UCC 1 and then the UCC 11, and I think that it's important to do all 3 steps. I really do. I think that you need to do the search, then the one, and then another search. That's just my thought process, okay? I have my reasons for doing that. Yes, Judge.
I was born in 1935, and I have a...
You're old.
Yeah, thank you.
You look good, though. Hey, you got your health, you know?
Well, Al brought this up, so I would like to clarify what happened on that registration with the U.S. Department of Commerce. They started registering with the U.S. Department of Commerce your births. Now, register means to list for taxation. So they started registering the births in 1928 with the U.S. Department of Commerce, and they did that for 10 years. My sons were born in the 1950s, so when they got their birth certificates, they didn't have these U.S. Department of Commerce certificates attached to them like my birth certificate had it. And so I called the Bureau of the Census in Washington, D.C., and I spent a whole day trying to track this down to find out why they didn't do this anymore. And I finally got hold of a lady who administered that program with the U.S. Department of Commerce. She said that in 1928, they contracted with the states to do the registration for them.
In 1928?
1938.
Oh, 1930.
1938. So all the states then became agencies of the federal government in 1938, performing that function for them. And then all the records from that day forward to be maintained within the states rather than in Washington, D.C. All the reporting is done to Washington, D.C. on them, but those certificates now are created by the states rather than by the federal government on behalf of the federal government. When I got a copy of my birth certificate from 1935, it came from Portland, Oregon, and they had gone back and photocopied the original certificate that had been issued in 1935. And when they put it on the photocopy machine, some of the light bled all the way through the certificate, so the printing on the back of the birth certificate showed through on the front of it. It was very interesting. On, of course, the front of the certificate, it said State of Oregon, but on the back of the certificate, it said United States Standard Certificate of Birth. So there was a United States birth certificate on the back of the Oregon birth certificate. When I went to the state of Oregon then and asked for a copy of what was on the back of it, they told me that didn't exist. There was no such thing. There was nothing on the back, that it was completely blank. What they keep on file now is an abstract, not the actual birth certificate, and they've somehow managed to transfer the signatures of the doctor that originally signed that birth certificate in 1935 onto this abstract that they keep on file now. But the original birth certificate that was issued in 35 is no longer there. So I did pursue that. There are 2 separate items. There's a birth certificate and there's a birth registration with the U.S. Department of Commerce, and they're separate items. My own opinion is possibly that the birth registration is the item that is collateralized, not actually the birth certificate. Anyway, that was my comment.
Thank you. Okay, who's next? Step up, step up.
I'd like to get some clarification if you live in another state. For example, I live in Wisconsin. I faxed my UCC-1 to the state of Washington, and I also resided in Oregon and have some issues there that I need to clear up. As far as I don't really have a certified copy. As you know, fax copies are inadmissible in a court of law. Can you clarify that for me? What I should do for getting a certified copy
Of your birth certificate?
No, of the UCC-1 to register it in my state.
Well, if you will go, and I don't have the number off the top of my head, but there are people right here in the area that for a fee will get you a certified copy and send it to you.
Can I get the copy myself? I'm heading to Olympia on Monday.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
If you got the filing number and a pocket full of money, they'll give you anything you want.
2 for 2, all right.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay?